one of our favorite icons. The Femme Queen performance icon herself, honey. None other than the iconic Niambi. One of the few icons that I have on my side. Baby, if you don't know who she is, then you don't know Ballroom. But now it's time to get to know a little more. You know she ain't a prodigy no more. You know I'm going to ask the questions. And you know I'm going to get the tea.
This has been a long time coming, though.
Niambi, run down all of your categories that you have a title in, please.
Um, well, the thing about it is, I first started walking when I first entered ballroom. I started walking runway. I was a runway girl, and um, for not that long, and then when Sanaya and Ashley came around and like burst on the scene, even though I was influenced by those before them, but when they hit the scene, I was like, "What is that?" And I want to do it. So, so that's kind of when I like merged into Vogue. Vogue is definitely not what you see now. The type of Vogue it was more subtle. But when Sanaya and Ashley came around, it was more of a cat fight, dramatic style of Vogue that kind of shifted the scene. Um, and then shortly after that, then you had me, Dee Dee, and Yolanda, and all of us came a little bit
Deja.
after that. They brought more of a rivalry. That's when kind of like the rivalry started. Um, yeah, they brought kind of like a more competitive edge to the category, to where it was exciting to see. You know what I mean? Like, people would come from all over when Ashley and Sanaya walking. If one was walking, somebody was shoving the other one out to walk. You know what I mean? And it was that serious. Of a femme queen's aim wasn't to be just legendary for one category. You had this thing called all around femme queen, which you can walk at, you were walking everything. You know what I mean? Or a girl that could walk everything. You know what I mean? That was basically the aim. That's where the femme queens got their status from, by walking multiple categories and the ability to walk multiple categories. So one of them ones is definitely the icon, and she is still here and with us and still eating it. The icon Letitia. Shout out to the icon Letitia, because she was one of the first ones that I heard about when I came out in 1992. And to see her still thriving and pushing and walking balls and doing what she loves is a blessing, not only to this scene, but on the whole. She is ballroom royalty.
She is. Absolutely is, honey. Baby.
Yes, I was inspired. Number one, the for one of the first movies that I saw when I came out, of course, was Paris is Burning, like a lot of people. So I was inspired by a lot by Octavia and Moldavia and Danielle. And the thing about it is that so many people have stories, but even me being a kid, being a sponge in ballroom, I was able to see them. I was able to talk to them. I was able to gain insight from them. And shit like that is priceless. You know what I
It
mean?
is.
So yeah, I was inspired by Alyssa. Um, let's see, there's so many, but the closest that I had with Octavia, when she came to Philly, she was living in Philly for a little bit, and I got to spend time with her, and that right there to me was priceless. That was priceless, to see her like on Paris is Burning, and then you know what I mean. And it's so funny the way when you meet somebody, it's totally different than the picture that people paint of them. You know what I'm saying? And it's like when I was spending time with her, I'm like, this is nothing like what people say. You know what I'm saying? This is nothing. This is nothing. This is nothing to how people say that she is. I walked runway. I walked face a few times and became kind of known for the category. I ushered in the category of junior sex siren myself, along with Dee Dee. Performance, of course. I've also walked foot and eyewear a few times, and yeah, over the course of 32 years.
We talked about Katrina Turner, and we talked about you talking about Katrina Turner. Now, from what I know, Katrina Turner is like made trans history from like the military or something, from like some
Mhm.
military accolades, and then
Mhm.
she had been pow
Mhm.
because by somebody who accused her of assaulting them as a child. Is that right?
Mhm. That's right.
So
That is absolutely correct. And the person who actually did it, their father actually reached out to me to me. I have in 2018 I opened trans information just to get information out to, the masses. And they reached out to me through my organization's Facebook page, his father. And let me know, and just like started running down the whole entire situation, how Katrina used to go with the boy's mother, and get back in the day, and that Katrina was touching on him. What I did do was I ran her name and I saw the assault charge for a child under 14. That is when I went live.
yikes. What made you want to take that risk to even put your voice and personality out there, knowing that it could potentially give people a reason to hate you?
When I noticed that they were offing us for basically no reason, um because I'm like, if it affects them, it affects me too. If it can be them, it could be me too. And that's the type of mindset that I had. I was like, and any type of small interaction could end my life. You know what I'm saying? And and it did, and the thing about it is, it didn't take for me to actually know the person, even though that did come later. It didn't take for me to actually know the person to want to get involved. I'm like, they're trans, whether it's a trans woman, trans man, non-binary person, just for no reason outside of just living our truth and being authentically us. I couldn't understand it. So this was when, and I always shout her out. Shout out to Jahira de Alto, aka Jahira Balenciaga, because that that angel, that
Mm,
walking angel, is the
mm.
reason why I'm speaking. And after the first maybe year or two, and you know how the girls were being the girls, I'm like, I'm done with this. I just can't. You know what? You know what I mean? And she called me on Messenger, and we had like a 2.5 hour conversation, and she said, Niambi, no. Ballroom needs you. Ballroom needs your voice. Ballroom needs your voice. And this was maybe 2 months before what happened to her happened to her. And it was from then I was like, I have to. There's this is what I'm meant to do. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And so I always make a point to shout her out, because she was the one who convinced me to be of service to our community that needs it, and to be that ear and to be that voice. And however people, however people see me, I'm a mother to some, auntie to some, whatever it is, whatever hat it is, you know what I mean? I just try my best. But in that, I don't want people putting me on no pedestals and expecting all of it. You know what I mean? Because people have to realize that that I'm human, and us that speak are human, and we have to take time for ourselves. You know what I'm saying? We have to take time for ourselves. That I live for you, Niambi, turns real quick from a lot of them. When I
I
start
know.
speaking and saying things that hit certain nerves with people, that I live for you, I love your Vogue, Niambi, that turns real. I mean, that stuff turns real quick. Sorry, TikTok. That stuff turns real quick.
People loving your Vogue to fearing your voice.
Well, what I've learned is just to be monotone and not to care each way, because the same way they build you up is the same way that they'll break you down. And I've learned that in ballroom, and the thing it runs true throughout. You know what I mean? You know the same. And a lot of times it's the same. It's the same people, and they want to keep you in the box that they have in their heads of you.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is, whatever type of box that they have, they want to keep you in there. That way that they can control that. Like, no, I'm this and that. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
now the thing about it is, okay, they Snooki had created this group, and mind you, it was all mess. It was all mess, and now looking back, it was it was very, very, very petty. And but the thing that I didn't like about it was they had created a group that was, I guess they got tired of people posting like history stuff in their group, so they went and coined another group, because I was in there heavily, and it was like, well, child, nobody wanted to see about no freaking history, child, and blah 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 blah. So they created another group. So, honey, I pulled up, you know what I mean, and was like, but wait a minute. One more thing about Snooki. So when I said that, um, he clarified it and was like, "Oh no, it wasn't that. We just made this platform. We just made this extra platform." So I went and made a post, and I was like, "Okay, listen, Snooki, I may have jumped the gun. You know what I mean? And I apologize, like as a woman coming to him and apologizing. Like, listen, Snooki, you know what I mean? No hard feelings, but he was already upset. Talk about he going live at 11 o'clock. Ain't no like he went in.
Mm.
So when he went in, I went in and
Oh,
started selling
baby.
gorilla t-shirts to the girls.
You said started selling what t-shirts?
Gorilla t-shirts.
Not McGilla.
Yes, King Kong t-shirts with a roller set and a microphone in his hand.
Yeah, we have it on deck on all platforms.
Like, I've always been a kind of reserved type, a reserved type person. I was really meek. Ask anybody that has known me for like this voice was not always there. You know what I mean? I just got tired of being run over. And it was something that I had noticed that people were doing to me in ballroom all the way since I was a kid. I entered ballroom at 15 years old. You know what I mean? Some would say I was groomed into it. Um, as a matter of fact, before how I met ballroom was from the person who groomed me. So
Groomed you in like a predator sense?
yes,
Is that
yes,
part of your inspiration for talking about predator behavior and exposing predators online?
yes. Basically, this guy who was married, and had two kids and one on the way. Actually, like I was kind of like dealing with, my identity things like around puberty and all of that. So this guy actually posed as like a preacher type, counselor type person, and I knew him through somebody I went to school with, and he kind of like weaseled his way in around me and my grandmother. So he talked to my grandmother, like, and back then, and was kind of like painted himself as like this savior type person. And once and my grandmother was wooed. She was wooed very easily by him. And I was having difficulties navigating. Like I said, navigating identity back then. So I ended up at his house with him, his wife, and his two kids, and one on the way. Now in that, it was kind of like and this was before transition, so it was kind of like a houseboy type setting. It's crazy that I'm telling this story. It's easy for me to tell. It's easy for me to tell this story now because I just found out maybe 2 months ago that he's deceased, so I'm good. I look back at it, and I kind of had to go through that in order for me to be sitting in this chair. You know what I'm saying? So because that kind of like started the whole thing, me being introduced to ballroom. He was actually the one who introduced me to my gay mother. Um, I don't even know. I'm not sure if he was down. I'm not sure if he was down low. I think his wife even may have known.
Okay.
He was just that type of, he was that type of assertive person to be able to do whatever he wanted to do. I think he even beat her. Um, you know what I mean? He was just that type of aggressive type energy and personality.
So was he, is he somebody, and you don't have to name any names, but is he somebody who was involved in ballroom?
His name is Eric Malloy, and he is gone, and he is 6 feet under. He wasn't directly involved in ballroom, but he knew a lot of ballroom personalities. Yeah, it was crazy. It was crazy because it got to a point to where he started like trying to put his hands on me, so that I called my grandmother on the phone. I'm like, get me out of here. And then and I'm 13. I was 13. And I was like, I called her at 2 o'clock in the morning. I said, get me out of here. Do you know that my grandmother, her sister, and my two uncles came that next morning and got me out of there? My uncle hit him over the head with a glass ashtray, and they got me out of there. Do you know that my grandmother, her sister, and my two uncles spent 24 hours in jail because of it? What was so freaking crazy is years later, I'm living in Philly at my aunt's house, and and mind you, I was on the other side of the law then. I get a call from a detective, and I'm thinking that they was looking for me. A detective calls me on the phone and was like, because mind you, they really didn't do nothing back then. When I like they didn't arrest him or nothing for the whole grooming situation, like nothing. So this detective calls me on the phone, asked me for my name and all of that, and was like, "We would like you to testify against Eric Malloy because he was caught with a 6-year-old white boy."
6 years
And they
old,
wanted
Niambi.
me. They used my story, like they went like they. I guess they found like the police report or whatever from what happened to me, and bitch, they wanted me to testify in court for this child when they did nothing for my situation. Mhm.
Do you think that we are vulnerable? Do you think that queer kids are vulnerable to predators?
Yes, because we're the least protected,
Mm, mm, mm,
and
mm.
that's just that.
You said that.
Because
You said that.
because most queer kids, whether you're queer or trans, know way before puberty, and it's then when people older than us and people in our lives that are already adults notice that thing in us. That's when the protection becomes removed. I don't want anybody to think that I'm talking down about this house or anything, because first of all, I stayed for 22 years. So it wasn't all bad. You know what I'm saying? But the thing about it is that you outgrow certain things in certain situations, and that's what the case was for me. Besides, I did not feel that not only myself was receiving the reciprocation of love, but the girls in general. And I'm going to pick the girls every time. Anybody that knows me, that I'm going to pick the girls every time. And it's just that I just did not feel, I just did not feel the love and support that I should have received after giving of myself 22 years to one single organization. Not think about leaving once, not house hopping at any time, not wanting a position of mother so I can feel grander than the rest. None of that, none of that.
And it's not a coincidence. I don't think it's a coincidence, but correct me if I'm wrong, that you left the house of Prodigy not long after Man and Shadira had their fight.
It wasn't in direct correlation, but yeah, that was the timing. Shadira had went live when that happened, and then I talked to man on the phone, and he's running things down to me. Then I'm giving, somewhat of my opinion, and then I'm being, attacked by, people that are taking her side and all of that. So it's
Hmm.
just like that's a terrible position to be in, to just be stuck in the middle like that. You know what I mean? Because I have someone that has been in my life since I was a kid versus the betterment of the trans community, and to be, no one knows what that feels like, to be stuck in the middle.
You felt like with the changes in the climate of the transgender community in the public
Yes.
eye,
Yes.
you felt like for you, the House of Prodigy didn't respond to that properly.
I and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back. But it was a lot of people. You know what I mean? Like, for instance, when I first, like, I've reached out to Caesar. I've reached out to these different people that have these like enormous platforms that can get the awareness out. I mean, for goodness sakes, his freaking best friend is a trans woman. Like, I'm like, and I'm out here trying, and and I remember when I first started and I reached out to him, and I'm just like, listen, can I tag you in a few things? Can you, maybe talk about this? Because like this is getting to a point where, I mean, you do have me all over your page, making coins off my vlog videos, but I will accept just you speaking about this.
Who was your rival? Who was your rival
Well,
before?
from 92 to 96, the Icon DD Revlon, we were definitely rivals. That lady is, and it's so crazy because we were actually rivals before we even knew each other. We actually went to rival junior high schools. Hers was, she went to Shoemaker and I went to Soulsburger. Shout out to both of those schools that are in Philly, that are in West Philly. We actually grew up maybe blocks away from each other. She was already out in the scene before me and walking balls before, a little bit before
Yeah,
me.
cause her dad was like queer or something, so she had the freedom to transition young, right? Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
so yep,
Shout
and
out,
then
shout out.
we were rivals from like 92 to about 96, and then Yolanda came up on the scene, and that was all she wrote.
Well, well,
Yolanda came on the scene in 96, honey, and broke all that up, and then she beat me the first time she came to visit Philly, because I had Philly wrapped around, like I had Philly like this. And this little cute little child comes and gives her a cuntiest performance, and up until then, they were seeing all this dramatics from me, and it was good. But for them to see somewhat of a change, and when she first came into scene, she was soft, and she was, Vogue soft and kind. So when they saw that change, they were just like, she was getting all the, I was like, oh, she beat me? Oh, no. And I kept coming to every freaking function, honey, and she kept processing me at every one. It took me 3 years to get her. Baby, it took me 3 years of I finally got her at the 1999 Octavia St. Laurent ball, and baby, I mean, we would, and y'all could go see the clips on YouTube of all the awards balls that we used to battle. We used to battle 3, 2, 3, and 4 times, and they would still give it to her, all types of excuses, and be like, I can't see, and all of that. And we would have to battle 2, 3, and 4 and 5 times, child. And we would both be tired, honey. She'd be jumping off the stage, honey. I'd be at the front of the runway, and then Becca Ella to the back of the runway. They'd be like, do it again, do it again, do it again. It took me 3 years, and I finally beat her in 1999. And mind you, I was getting all types of accolades and awards from Philly and New York of the years and everything, but I could not beat this child. I just think that it was a change. Like, people love things shiny and fresh and new, and that's what she was for the scene at the time. And and as for me, I was walking every function known to man. I would, you know what I mean? And I was at, many balls, many function, and because that's how it was in the 90s, and I was a kid. You know what I mean? So of course I'm going to be at everything, especially if it's something that I like doing and I'm, winning. They really turned us against each other, like for real, for real. You know what I mean? And that is the, And that is the thing that I hated the most about ballroom. But the one thing that I was able to do was to start to repair all of that before she passed away. So shout out to my sister. She sits right here in every interview that I do, talk about me and all of that. So and I think about her all the. I actually do a video every year for her and dedicate it to her. A Vogue video every year on her birthday.
What advice would you give to the girls on the scene that people are trying to make them butt heads with another girl?
I would say it's just ballroom. Um, you know what I mean? Competition is supposed to be healthy and not toxic. Um, and if you feel it getting toxic, then you know what I mean. If that, it's not for you. If you feel yourself getting angry and overly angry, to where it transcends over into your actual life, let's remember that ballroom is supposed to be an extracurricular activity. Extracurricular. You know, and you gotta have to. And at the end of the day, you gotta have tough skin. You know what I mean? You have to have tough skin. And let me tell y'all something too. The majority of the freaking moments that a lot of y'all freaking live for and all of that and give me all these praises for, bitch, I lost. Okay? Because it's not, a lot of times it's not about the winning, it's about the moments. Stack your moments because those moments are your legacy.
Neil, do you know I don't care if these girls think that I'm real or not, honey. I live it. I don't have to. I don't have to walk it.
But I never liked that category from the beginning because I don't see how anybody
Me
can tell a
neither.
trans woman
I
that
don't.
has
I
to
don't.
actually make it home after the function.
I think that if they're going to continue realness in ballroom, one of the things that they definitely should consider is when they have realness categories, those categories being judged by the demographics of the realness. Femme queen realness should only be judged by femme queens,
I
so
agree.
forth and so forth and so on. Same for trans men, same for butch queens, same for butches. But Tyreek said, do you have any thoughts on Yolanda's relationship with Caesar and Sanaya?
Sanaya never comes to me like, well, how do you feel about Alora being gone? How do you feel about Giovanni and Lorenzo? Like, these
And
were my
showing care,
brothers and
showing
sisters
love,
that we
right?
lived in the same exact household with her and Caesar. Right. And then for Sanaya, for her, it's like, it's just let me choose these daughters. Because, she was very particular of the daughters that she chose them
Very,
ballroom. Let
always.
me choose them because they have names. So I can kind of pull off of their coattail to keep her name alive.
Yeah, well,
You get it?
or she can, y'all can be on her coattail, which will elevate your name because she's the Sanaya,
Mother
the
of the
mother.
pack.
But you felt like her being the mother has not given you, she hasn't given you that thing that you
No,
never got, so you never got to
no,
really tell her
no,
and a
like,
nice sit down like the way me and you sit
yeah,
down.
like this. And then she's always feared it. She's always been about, like, I'll just go into a situation like when my ballroom level started rising, and she's all about her fashion. She's always about a red bottom or this, that, and the third. So Caesar got me a boot from Petite and Patin. She tells him to return it because all I'm going to do is destroy the boot. He felt that I should have it because I worked for it. You get, and that was always my argument with her. It's like, if I worked for something so hard, let me have that. Why you being this? You're supposed to be my mother. I'm supposed to look up to you, but for what reasons? Look up to you because you have a hourglass body. Look up to you because you're wearing the latest shoe. That's not really what's popping.
Was there anything that you witnessed or anything that you could speak on?
I did not witness it I did not witness it firsthand, but I do believe her when she was coined by the scene coined her as crazy. And you know who else they did the same thing to? Me.
Yeah.
People mistake crazy. People use that term too loosely, first of all. And we deal with trauma, all types of freaking trauma. They wouldn't be able to walk 24 hours in our shoes dealing with what we deal with.
A lot of them can't, and then a lot of them end up coming online and complaining about how they're trans women, but nobody sees them as trans because they can't handle the actual transition.
How about it? How about it? And you know this conversation is not over, honey. You can find me at Cash App Learn Your History. I'm on, you can follow me on Facebook, Learn Your History. You can follow me on the new Niambi E. Stanley on Facebook. Niambi is 10 on Instagram. New Niambi E. Stanley on YouTube. Black Trans Enterprise. LGBTQ Wall Street. Trans Informed. Niambi sees readings. This one. This one right here in this box. Follow her. Listen to her. Go to each one of her playlists that she got here on TikTok, where she talks about caucasity, where she talks about ballroom, where she talks about all of the things. Let me tell you something. This lady has the voice to bring you in. She has such a voice of experience that I swear this lady has been here before. Listen to her.
I definitely think that we need to love our trans women out loud even more because we don't get it enough. And when we usually get it, it's usually from each other. So tell a trans woman who you love
Or
that
after
you
we're no
love them
longer
today.
here. Or
Oh,
after
yeah.
we're no longer here.
Or
So
after we're
let's
no
start
longer
giving the
here.
love to the girls now. Oh, and one
Yeah.
more thing. Fund the girls. I forgot. Fund the girls.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And for all of y'all, this is only the beginning of seeing us together, honey. Peace, love, and blessings to all of y'all. Until next
Thank
time.
y'all so much. I'll see y'all soon.